Hey, Shirley, thanks for joining us.
Hey, Omar. I'm so excited to be here with you and with your audience.
I am super excited to have you. How are you feeling today?
I am doing wonderful in sunny South Florida. Love my family, love life, love the people in my life, and I just feel so supported.
All right, excellent, excellent. All right, so let's dive right in. So, first of all, folks, today we have Shirley Solis joining us on the show. Shirley is the founder of Live Life, correct?
Correct. Yep. Live
Okay.
Life is a 3-day women's experience.
Experience the freedom of being a woman. This is a live event where you'll learn the tools you need to live your life as powerful, free, as a powerful, free, and inspiring woman. Ever since I was a little girl living in Ecuador, I had great dreams to become an astronaut, president, or a famous singer. Today, I do all of that, minus the singing. I discover and explore new worlds. I influence and bring transformation at all levels, making a large impact everywhere I go. Sound about right, Shirley?
Sounds exactly right. Absolutely.
All right, guys, you're in for a treat. Shirley's a powerhouse. So she's got a tremendous, she brings a lot of value to the world. She brings a lot of value to the people that she touches in her life. She's a mother of 6 with a 7th on the way. None of us that know her know how she does it, but she's basically a magician. Or would you, is that too masculine? What would you, not a magician, it would be what? A unicorn?
Magician's good. Yeah, unicorn. Magician's good. I'm a magician. I've never been called that before. I like it. I like it.
She makes things happen. Huh? How about that?
Absolutely.
All right, beautiful. All right, so we're gonna dive right in because there's a lot of stuff we're gonna cover,
Yeah.
right? But the first thing I want to cover is let's get to know Shirley. What does your daily routine look like? Give us a snapshot.
Well, that's so awesome. First of all, my daily routine looks very organized. I love freedom. I love following my intuition, but I can't be that all time, right? So I do like to create structure within my day, and within that structure, create times where I can just flow, because that's part of being a woman in business and having 6 children and running a family and coaching like I do means that I have to pretty much optimize my time. Every single minute has to be optimized. And it means that I might be in my masculine a lot. But in order to stay in my feminine, I have to allow for that flow. So for instance, in the morning, my routine will definitely include listening to an audio that's very inspirational, not anything that's educational, more like inspirational, free flowing. I don't call it meditation. I love being a woman. I feel like we need to receive. Women are givers. We give and give and give and give. So one of my main practices in the morning is putting some music, wrapping myself with a blanket, like a little bundle, like my swaddle. That's actually something I do with my women's event. And I swaddle myself and I just tell God, the universe, I just say, I'm ready to receive love and unconditional love. Put that in me. Help me overflow so that I can operate from a place of abundance every single day, every minute of today. That's my number one, has to happen. Drinking water is like, I put the glass of water, the big bottle of water in the nightstand the night before, so that between that and drinking a big bottle of water as soon as I wake up, it happens. Those are my main 2 practices. Sometimes I'm able to squeeze in a little journaling in there, just processing whatever I'm working through emotionally. Obviously fitness, 20 minutes of some either cardio. Love jumping on the trampoline. I have a mini trampoline. Love that. I don't always get to do that in the morning, but at the end of the day, it's a must. I just put on my Beat headsets, cranking music that's 20 minutes long, like, the best music of the 80s. And then I go and I'm just jumping, in my trampoline. I'm like, da, 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 and it's wild. So that's my overall routine. And then my day in the middle, in between it, is very structured. Everything that happens in my life is in my planner. If it's not in my planner, it just doesn't happen. So even if it's write a letter, send an email, it's in my planner.
Amen.
Yeah.
Amen. So in there, I think you mentioned something about spirituality in the mix
Yep.
there. But I
Yep.
try, my second question is primarily and specifically on that topic, because for many of us, it's that spiritual practice that really grounds us, really connects us. So how do you maintain your spiritual condition? What does your spiritual practice look like?
Yeah, so that's a great question. And let me start with the before. So I grew up in a Catholic home, and God was this God that would punish me if I did something wrong.
I had
And
the same God.
then right, yeah. And then I moved into the evangelical Christian God, who was a little nicer. This one was my God. He forgave me, and Jesus died, and the whole, so I went into that and felt like there was a little more grace there. But even then, because of my own beliefs and because of my own needs and voids, I still made a religion out of that. I still made, and this is a very interesting point, I made God my idol. And what that means is, okay, God, if I do this for you and I behave this way, then I'm going to have a good life, right? If I
Negotiate.
fast and I pray and I go to church. So it really never changed. Like Catholic Church, evangelical, like it didn't change. So a God becomes your idol. God himself, like the God of the universe, becomes your idol when you're using God for your own needs. Like, let's negotiate here. You don't
Right.
go into it with tension, but that's what ends up happening. So something really difficult, something really challenging happened in my life 9 years ago. And we'll talk about that because it has to do with addiction. And it was at that point that the pain in my life was so great that I was forced to speak to a God, whoever this God was, and say, if you're real, if you're the one I've been serving, knowing, I want you to heal me. I need, please take away this pain. And that was the beginning of a genuine, someone actually taught me how to journal and use my journal time to actually hear from God. So like where I ask a question and I get an answer, and I know it's not me because it's the answers are way amazing. Like, I'm a smart woman, but these were like, this is like, how do we save the world kind of answers, and the discovery of me. And I got into that practice of just trusting that what I was hearing was something greater than me. And it was, and it has been, it's guided my life ever since. So that's it. It's no longer reading the Bible. I do go to it. I quote it sometimes on and off, and it's the foundation of so much of what I do, but I don't preach it. I live it. I live it. And it's more, hey, God, you're there today. I need you to be a mom for me. I need to connect with the feminine part of you. Hey, God, today I need you to be a friend. Hey, God, can you guide me in this? Like, and at the bottom of everything, like top, it's you are unconditional love. You are love. I am love. Therefore, help me. Bring it on. I need to overflow. I need to overflow from your unconditional love. That's it. That's my spiritual practice.
Well, what's beautiful about that, and I'm totally on board with everything, because it's just basically phrased differently, but I have the same
Yeah.
belief systems coming from that same dogma, right? Where there was a lot of resistance, and it felt the same way. I hadn't put it in those terms, but basically that's what we're doing to a certain degree. We're negotiating with God, where it's like, okay, so I'm supposed to do all of these things, and then because I do all of these things, then I get these things. Instead of, what inspires me to become the person that I'm supposed to be? What inspires me to take action in this direction? What inspires me to, and most of the time, once we create this relationship, like we have, like you and I have with God, same kind of relationship where, man, in my darkest hours, it's never like, if you do this for me, I'll do that. It's like, I need you. Like,
Yeah.
show me because there's no need to negotiate with God. He lives inside all of us. All you have to do is just reach out.
Yeah.
And you have those dark moments where like, I am willing to do whatever it takes
Yeah.
to change, to do the right thing, to do whatever. But it's not like if you do this, I get this. It's like, show me what to do and I will
Yeah.
do it. And
Right.
it
Because
changes dynamically. It's more like at that point, it's more like, let me give you a big warm hug and then push you into action, right? Support you through this, right? Where there's no agenda.
Well, and yeah, and there's no guarantee that if we quote unquote follow God, then, you know, at some point we think that, so naive and believing that life
Totally.
will be perfect.
Totally.
But it's like, the reality is that life will not be perfect. I'm a very positive person, but stuff happens. Okay. It's going to happen. And so therefore it's not, God, if I do this, let it go well with you. You know, it's more like, can I just become strong? Can I be love in the midst of everything that's happening and be strengthened by that greater force that you are, that binds this world together by the creativity that you are, and help me work through this. It boils down to identity, Omar. The more I know who God is, he, she, it, whatever, the
Right.
more I know who God is, the more I know who I am.
I love
And
it.
that's it. Like, so it's become a
Period. Yeah.
discovering of like, who are you, God? I don't want to learn from people. I don't want to, you know, I don't want to even read your biography. I want to know you first so that I can interpret your biography.
Ooh.
And then the more I know you, it's like this, the book of Job, you know, it's Old Testament stuff. At the beginning, he was the wealthiest man of all the earth. This is a story. Whether we believe it happened or not, we don't know, but the story makes sense. Beginning of story was the wealthiest man of all the world. He had a beautiful wife, amazing children, had everything. Satan, the devil, whatever, evil person, goes on to God and says, can I have permission to hurt this child? Take stuff away from him. He only loves you because he has everything. God's like, yeah, okay. Goes, makes him sick, kills the wife, you know, the wife leaves him, kills the kids. The guy loses everything. You know, and in that process, there's a struggle, that human struggle that we go through. Do I really believe in you, God? Like, really? You know, you did this to me? And at the end, here's the kicker for that. Is at the end, Job says, I had heard of you, but now I know you. So many times we hear of a God, but let me tell you, I know thousands of people, including myself, who for 13 years read the Bible, did all that stuff. And really knowing what I know now, I can tell you I had heard of him, but now I know him.
Yes.
And the only way to know someone knows God is because of who you are, how you're living your life. That's it.
And there's experiences that we've experienced in our lives that we come to believe there's only one explanation, is that God stepped in. And it wasn't once and it wasn't twice. Like, I've known there was these moments where I was like, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Right. And so experiencing that too also allows you to develop that foundation. All right, we got to move on because we could be on this topic forever, but
absolutely.
You know, I feel you. You. All right. So here's the thing. We're going to, I want to know more about your journey, but before we get there, I know you've got this event that's coming up in April. And I've checked out Shirley's page and the video, right? And it looks like a Tony Robbins event for women, right? Yeah. Lots of jumping, lots of singing. Everyone's having a great time. Super positive, very empowering. For like this episode's going to go out. When did we say this one was going to go out? March what?
Second week of March.
The second week of March. So you'll be listening to this the second week of March. So next month, April, what's the dates?
April 12th, 13th, and 14th.
3-day event in Miami, Florida. Please, just for those women that don't know, but you probably already do, the Recovery Revolution has a 60-40 concentration, 60% women over 40% men in the group. The ones that are the most active in the group are women. Some of our strongest leaders in the group are women. So I know there's very strong women in there, and those of you that are in Miami or in Florida and have access to, Shirley, tell us about the event and what they can expect.
Yeah, so it's interesting that you asked that question. Let me give you a little bit of the background of the story, and I'll tell you what the women can expect when they come to the event. And indeed, it is. My goal exactly was to create the women's version of Tony Robbins UPW. It's an aggressive goal, but I cannot give anything less than that. I mean, women deserve that. So 9 years ago, as I told you, that was a pivotal point in my life. I find out that my husband had an addiction to pornography, and what we call a sexual addiction. So whenever his pain points were not being taken care of, then he'd go to that quietly. That was his go-to. And I had no clue. I felt all of the symptoms of, but I didn't know where the pain, I didn't know what was causing it. It wasn't like drugs or alcohol that I could say, okay, the money's going somewhere. So when I find this out, we had 6 children already, been married for 16 years. I knew our marriage was not perfect, but I thought it was good. We were speakers, we were leaders in the homeschooling community. And so when I'm down and out, and I had a moment where I wanted to die. And that's when I had my encounter with God. And that's where I started coming out of that dark pit, and I journaled a lot, and I started to heal, and I learned tools. And the more I journaled, I wrote down my key beliefs, my key healing moments, my key tools, the things I was learning. And I said, one day this is going to become a women's event, because what it took me 2 to 3 years, that transformation time, I became an incredible woman. I went from someone who didn't value herself, someone who was a total enabler, although I was pseudo mature, meaning I didn't look like an enabler. I looked like a confident, strong woman, but I was an enabler. 6 children, I was a leader, but I realized I had been an enabler. I had a crazy amount of, issues, baggage. But I didn't know how to set boundaries. I didn't respect myself. I didn't love myself. I didn't value myself. And I went from that to someone who, in a matter of a few years, shifted her marriage entirely, helped her family get healed, helped her children get restored, healed myself, with the support of people, of course, healed our marriage to where today we have the most beautiful relationship, including the area of intimacy, like 100% healed. My husband today is my best friend. So I transformed, I began to find this freedom in being a woman. And I said, one day this is going to be a woman's event. And that's what Live Life is. Live Life is that event. It's a 3-day experience for women using my skills of neuro-linguistic programming coach. I'm a master coach. And all of my years of coaching women and knowing this is what we are missing. To go from, there's a lot of women empowerment talk. It's like, what do women need? Women who are powerful but are missing the tools to be empowered, what do they need? That's what they get at the event for 3 days. And of course, we have to add a little partying. You can't have a women's event without music and dance and Zumba and belly dancing and Caribbean style soca. We got it all. So that's what Live Life is.
Okay, I love it. I love it. So then let's back up a little bit and let's unpack your story. Okay. And let's talk a little bit about, where it all began. Where the journey began is before you got married, and, you've got 6 kids, but there was a time before that. So what were you doing before? So there's these moments in our lives where they're big defining moments. It could have been when you got married. It could have been when you went to college and went to high school. So one of my questions is, how has addiction played a role in your life, right? You kind of touched on it, but what can you expand on that as far as like, that was kind of like the overview, but give us the nuts and bolts of what that was like, how you met your husband, what you were doing at the time, when the kids came into play, and take us into that, the rock bottom moment.
Well, what I know today about addiction and my own personal experience is that we all have them. Whoever thinks they don't have an addiction is in denial. We all have tendencies, things that we go to in order to soothe our pain, in order to be able to cope. And those tendencies are dealt with, they become habits, and then they become addictions. Unfortunately, there's accepted addiction, especially in Latin America. Dad was a womanizer, and mom didn't put up with it, so they ended up splitting up, and I was only like 2.5 years old. So grew up without a dad. Obviously the void that leaves on a little girl, to where my mom had to go completely on the masculine energy side, providing, taking care, doing 2 jobs, sometimes 3 jobs to take care of my brother and I in the foreign country, the United States. That takes a toll. So a little girl that grows up like that eventually starts looking for love in the wrong places. So my addiction was men. It was, and not men like that I want to have sex with. I just wanted a hug. I just wanted to be hugged. That was my soothing. And of course, you know, the guys couldn't just get the hug. They had to get a little more. And so at the age of 18, I meet my future husband, the man who's my husband now. I get pregnant and we decide to get married. And then I lose the baby. So we still get married, but that's how our marriage starts. He comes from the same kind of background. Womanizer dad. Dad had cheated on his wife and his mom forever. So that's his upbringing, right? It's the accepted addiction. It's the one that makes the men look manlier. And so it didn't feel right, but that's what it was. And so I had the opposite of the addiction, which is looking for love in the wrong place, which is the neediness of it, you know, and Gus had the other part. So here we are going to get married, you know, start having children. Few years into it, I find out I catch him one time with pornography. I get furious, but like a normal young woman, I say, okay, men struggle with this. It broke my heart. He went from being my knight in shining armor to I will never respect him in my life again. That was it. That was the decision I made in my heart. He completed the promise that my mom had told me would happen, which is men are pieces of, they all will break your heart. So now that curse became the truth in my life, because that's the inheritance I had received about men.
Yeah.
So now he fulfills that promise. And I said, okay, you know, this is the addiction, but we didn't do anything about it. We just thought it'll go away. He's going to control it. And he would always talk about it as a gorilla that was in a cage. Addictions, words will always give away the addiction. So when he would talk about his addiction of being like not using pornography, and we'd have conversations with other people and whatever, you know, he didn't want to hurt me anymore. So he wouldn't do that. Right. Or so I thought. So he would talk about this gorilla that was in a cage. If there's a gorilla, that means the addiction is still there. And I don't know about you, but gorillas, they get madder if they're in cages. Heck yeah. Like you've seen King Kong, you know, the guy freaking breaks open and he goes up and yeah, like he was always telling me the truth,
right?
But he wasn't telling me. I was like, oh, okay, every guy struggles with that. Of course, the gorilla should be there. No, we don't have to live with addiction. So long story short, 6 kids into it, you know, my marriage was not what I would want it to be. And one day I'm just like pregnant with my 6th baby. I say, God, something is wrong in my marriage. You need to fix it. You need to bring out the light, like put light into it. Sure enough, find out that Gus, you know, had been going back to the pornography. And then that was the moment. That was the defining moment. I broke loose. I became like the B word, you know, times 10. And we found, long story short, we found a place that was an addiction recovery center. And we started learning about addictions. And the one thing they said to me is, whatever brought you here is just an excuse for you to heal your heart. So any woman or man who's listening, whose partner is in addiction, and even for you, if you're in addiction, but whatever it is, whatever brought you here, the problem is not the addiction. The problem and the reason why you're in this situation is for God to heal something in your life, for you to let go of whatever's been holding you back. So my husband's quote unquote addiction, which was the more obvious one, I mean, I didn't think I had an addiction at that point, was just an excuse for me to have an invitation into healing my life. That was the biggest gift Gus could have given me. Thank God for him and his addiction. I thank God every day for that.
So I'm trying to understand this. So, and I get that, right? There's a healing element of this. The addiction itself is a soothing mechanism. I'm using this to soothe myself from something.
Correct.
So something needs healing. So what was it for him that needed healing?
Yeah, for him, it was growing up with a dad who wasn't present, who never communicated emotionally, which is the common trend for men. Men weren't taught, the stereotype of men weren't taught to cry, weren't taught, like, the men don't go in the kitchen, men don't get emotional, men don't talk about their emotions, they never show their weakness. So maybe that worked in society at one point and it was functional, but it is not functional anymore. Men, it gets to a point where you burst. Men have gotten to the point where they're like, we just can't handle this anymore. The pressure's too big. We have to process these emotions. We have to learn to go into the EQ that we have, the emotional coefficient. So Gus, was the baby in the family. They used to call him El Niño Solito, the lonely child. So he grew up as the lonely child, the baby in the family. Parents were always working. He was a latchkey kid at age 5. Just didn't feel love and acceptance from mom and dad. And bottom line, his mom he grew up with his mom telling him about all the affairs his dad was having. And so when we get married and I'm not having sex with him because I have my own addiction, because either I'm pregnant or I'm breastfeeding, or every time he touched me, it reminded me of the abuse I had gone through, sexual abuse. Because the body has memory. So he touched me in a certain way, I would like jump, because muscle memory would say, you've been touched that way before and it didn't feel comfortable. So initially it was like the addiction is what brought us together. The sexual addiction was like, yeah, let's go have sex, even though we're not married, whatever, But then once the addiction happens, once you're hooked, it's like, poof, the extremes go. He will go to his addiction and I'll go to the avoidance of the sex, which was my thing, Let me try not to. And mind you, I know you're wondering how we had 6 kids in the midst of that, but
that was the question in my mind. I was just about to say, I go, not just 6, you've got a 7th one on the way.
Yeah.
How did you?
Yeah, but now it's good. Now this one was this okay. This was beautiful. Yeah.
Semi-avoidance.
It just 6 times. It just needed to happen those first 6 times in the midst of 16 years. And we were open to it. We really wanted children, but or I was a masochist or something, but it was.
I think what it sounds like to a certain degree is this whole idea of being raised in, because I was raised in the same Latino culture, right? Where you don't talk about your feelings, you don't air your dirty laundry, you keep things close. In other words, you don't air your dirty laundry. You don't talk about the things that happen in your home. Everything that happens within the family is private. And then when you're in the home, you don't talk about it either, right? Yeah. So there's nobody there's no one that's saying, hey, mijo, so how are you feeling? And your mom and I had a fight the other day, but did it affect you? Or, are you okay? How are you processing that? So I have no idea how to communicate. So is there a facet of this where you guys had to learn to communicate more effectively between the two of you that ultimately was what made the difference in relieving the need to soothe with the 2 different addictions?
Absolutely. I first of all, I'll tell you, I actually got a divorce, not like a legal divorce, but I wrote my own divorce decree because it is necessary to absolutely finish off, let go and break off whatever kind of relationship you had in the past. So for me, emotionally, like I needed to actually write a divorce decree. Let go of any expectations of whatever that wedding ring meant to me up to that point. And from there, say, I don't care about you. I'm going to focus on me because I really didn't care about him. I had been so hurt over and over and over and over that by the time I find this out, I was like, that's it. Thank you. I needed a way out. This was my excuse. But we were in this addiction recovery program. So I just said, okay, focus on you, take responsibility for you. I start healing. When I start healing, we don't work on the marriage at all. He works on him and I work on me. When you have 2 people who are working on themselves, the marriage will work.
Yes.
The family will work. So that's what we did. We never worked on the marriage. We always worked on ourselves and then came together to test the work we were doing on ourselves.
Wow.
So yeah.
We're half an hour into this interview. That should be one of your biggest takeaways from this call is when you're struggling in your relationship and in your marriage, working on the marriage is futile
Hmm.
because
Yeah.
I'm staring at this white elephant that I don't know what to do with.
Yeah.
Instead of we have got to go into our corners, right? We've got to do our own work, and
Hmm. Yeah.
then we can come back and meet in the middle and see where we're at. And
Hmm.
that is so 100% true. It's needed. You need that space. You need to challenge the thoughts that are in your head, because he's thinking one thing, you're thinking another thing, and then the communication and what's actually said is completely different, right?
Hmm.
Because I'm afraid that, I have to kind of sound this way and say this thing. So if I say this, I'm going to hurt her. But then at the same time,
Yeah.
how to get my point across? How are you possibly going to feel safe and secure having a conversation when you've got all this dialogue running on in your head? So you have to go and
Yeah.
do the personal healing.
We've had to heal from the infidelity, which is, for most women, they're like, we can never heal that. Oh, yes, you can. And I hope that you do. I hope that you believe that you can, because we don't have to be victims of our past, men or women. Now, we had to heal, both of us, from sexual abuse from childhood, abandonment, rejection, suicidal attempts on my side, and then all the pain we cost each other from infidelity, from emotional infidelity on my side, other, you know, because I felt so lonely that there were other people that came into my life. So we had to heal that on both sides. We had to heal, disrespect, lack of boundaries, lack of communication, abandonment, emotional abandonment. I mean, we had to heal so much stuff. It would have been easier to get divorced, but I am so glad we didn't, because staying was harder, but it helped us grow more. And so you realize how powerful you are when in the same situation with the same person, you can create a completely different experience, night and day, night and day.
Assuming you do the most important thing, which is heal yourself, do the work necessary
Absolutely.
to do the healing.
Absolutely. Yeah, 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 yeah. Yeah.
So let's tell us, you've kind of, as much as you feel comfortable with, but you're
Mhm.
talking about the sexual abuse that you experienced and the effect it had on you. How much of that can you share with our listeners? What happened and then
Yeah.
how you got through it?
Sure. I'm an open book, and I feel like it's important for more and more people to talk about these things, because um more people can come out and say, oh wow, I'm not the only one, this didn't just happen to me, and most importantly, because I don't have the story of just abuse, I have the story of full recovery and thriving experience in every area of my life. So I am that person that can say, hey, you can do it too, and live life to the fullest, and then help others transform as a result. So the situations, basically in a nutshell, was I matured physically very early, and my mom was a single mom here in the United States. And she was a very beautiful young woman. She had me when she was 21 or something. So she never remarried. And there were obviously a lot of men who would want to court her. She never had a boyfriend, but they were men who met her. She was a waitress, and they want to court her. They became friends. And of course they would like, oh, she's got kids, let's become friends with the kids. So I was like, 9 years old when we met her, one of her friends, and he would be nice, and he would say to her, look, I can take food for the kids when you're at work. So he'd come over, he'd bring us food. Once we got to trust him, he would bring food, and then he would fondle me, and he would hug me and touch me and press himself against me. And then later on, when I was a little bit older, he's like, oh, I'm bringing movies over. We'd pop in the movies, and it was pornographic movies, cartoons. And that was my first experience. So there was a lot of the touching, a lot of the verbal language, sexual verbal language, and it was very uncomfortable. And like that, there were, I guess I attracted it to me because I was looking for that older, energetically and emotional, I was looking for that older father figure. But because I was young, pretty, funny, like bubbly personality, there was also the femininity in me that I guess these older men who weren't right in their mind were attracted to. And so it opened doors. And yeah, and so there were like so many of those scenarios where it was like, just, okay, you're an object. Because that's what it becomes once that first initial pattern is created and the mind accepts that belief you're an object, it's like I'm an object. And I just kept operating as the object, even when I was married. Mhm. Yep.
And
But
so go ahead.
no, I was going to say, when I learned about forgiveness, I actually went to that man. I looked for him. He was older. I went to his house, and I had never talked to him about it. And as a grown woman with 6 children, I went to his house. He came out, and I looked at him straight in the eyes, and I said, I want you to know that I know what you did to me, and what you did to me was wrong. And I paused for a long moment, and he did not know what to say. He was old. And I said, but I want you to know I forgive you. I set you free. You don't owe me anything. His face literally distorted right in front of me. And I turned around and I left. The most empowering moment. Yep.
Well, in my experience, those moments are for us. Forgiving the other one is more for me than it is for them,
Yep.
because it allows me to let go of whatever part of that experience was being held onto, or I allowed it to be a part of my story, or to sit in victimhood, and just to release that, and to say to the other person, I forgive you, which is more of it's a releasing, it's a letting go. So you walked away from that, and what was the most like impactful and empowering, feeling? Like you left and it's like, what were you thinking?
What I was thinking is I closed the cycle. I had a voice. He was no longer, it wasn't the child, because that happened to the child, but the woman now had a voice, and she took responsibility to close the cycle. Now, some people are not able to close the cycle in that way with their offenders. In my case, in that particular case, many I didn't, but the goal is to always close the cycle, to say, it opened this way, I'm going to close it. I'm responsible for closing, for healing that, whatever it takes in any situation. So it was very, very like, okay, it's behind me.
So if you were to describe your childhood, your family, your dad left at 2.5. It's just you and your brother, and your mom, and your mom's working full time, and she doesn't remarry. So what were your feelings about your family at that time, and how you were raised, and, your belief about family?
I actually never thought of us as a family. I all I felt was lonely. I felt very lonely and very disconnected. That's all I felt. I didn't think of us as a family. I know we were, because there's college, but I think the dysfunction of it didn't allow me to feel like a family. I longed for that mother-father figure, together. And then I had never met a healthy family, so there was not any of that. Therefore, I never longed to get married and have children, interestingly enough. But unconsciously, this is how powerful our unconscious mind is. I must have set the intention at some point, or I must have a great calling in this world, because when I did get married, even for the reasons that I got married, I set out to create the family I never had. And look at it. I've married 25 years, 6.2 children, 7 children. I've actually been pregnant 10 times, but I've had 3 miscarriages. And so 7, I'm very fruitful. But 7 children. And I have a beautiful family. What you were talking about and describing earlier, where it's family communicates. I mean, we have family meetings. We open up. We have homeschooled our children. We've traveled with them in spite of our inadequacies. Even when we weren't okay in our marriage, we did a great job raising those kids. So it is possible to have a functional family in spite of a dysfunctional marriage and dysfunctional adults. Now, I'm not saying do that, but we were very unique because I was so proactive in my parenting. Did a lot of mistakes. And that's how I got into the coaching world, because my main program, Powerful Parenting Academy, was the first program I launched, because I know we did a great job with that. So I set out to create the family I never had, and to help others now create those families.
It makes sense. And really, there's no story without suffering. And, there is this idea that through struggle comes the learnings. And it's those learnings that we experience that we can then share with the world. We can help
Yeah.
people who are just starting out in their marriage, that are just starting out thinking about having kids. And, here's all the pitfalls that you can look, that could possibly happen. And the most important thing is to do this, right? And then do that. And this is, it's no different than anything else. It's struggling through addiction and then getting the help that you need comes from someone who's already trudged the road before you and can actually walk you through the process.
Absolutely. It's needed. We cannot do this alone. We have to heal in community. That's why healing and then teaching this stuff in your families is so important. We didn't heal individually only. We taught all this to our children and we healed together. So important to include our children in the healing process.
Well, when I think about your husband and I think about the latchkey kid, el niño solito, it makes sense that an abundant family would be something that is either on a conscious level or a subconscious level, right? We could probably never have too many kids.
Right. That's right. I have to tell him that. Be like, that's what Omar said. You see, you'll never be alone. Because that's his main thing. He's like, I'm in the bathroom. Would you guys mind? He is never alone.
Right. But at some point, he was always alone.
That's right. That's a great point. I think.
And so I'm either moving towards pleasure or I'm avoiding pain.
Right.
And so if I think about the idea of being lonely, one more kid just adds another buffer between me and that loneliness.
Right.
I mean, I'm never going to be alone. Ever.
Grandchildren. Oh my God.
Yes.
We're hoping we can be alone at some point.
Yeah.
Jesus,
No, you're not.
No, we think we are anyway.
No, you're not.
Oh my gosh. But we love children. We have loved raising our children. And now that we're in this stage where we are healthy emotionally, loving each other, because we do. I love that man. I appreciate him. He is the perfect gift for me. I can look back and say, wow, with all the pain that I received, today pain is even a perception. It's not even a reality. I have gotten to the point that where I've told him, you've never hurt me. You've never hurt me, Gus. Because when you get your learnings, because at first it's like, poof, all this pain. Then you face the pain in order to heal it. But if you keep going with the healing, it gets to a point where all of that pain, once you find your beauty from the ashes, and I look at what I'm doing today and I'm like, wow, look, I'm able to have this event and help all these women transform, and look at all the programs I've created and all the coaching. Is like, I would have never had these tools. So it's like, thank you for what happened. So there's no longer any pain. It's gone. All that's left is an awesomeness, the experience. And the pain is gone because neurologically we can change that.
Yeah, it's all mindset. It's all mindset. You create new neural pathways.
Yes.
And it's a 2 millimeter shift, right? And so many of us spend, good things and bad things happen to us all the time.
Yep.
But at some point, so many bad things happen that I start to expect them.
Yeah.
I start to look for the bad in every situation. Even when it's good, I start minimizing the good so that I don't create expectations or build expectations. Because the better I feel, the harder the drop. Yeah. So a lot of times I walk into every situation and I'm looking for the wrinkle in the room. I'm looking for the chipped piece of paint on the wall instead of appreciating the beautiful environment that I'm in or the beautiful experience. Because of that, I have been carrying this for so long. I'm afraid to feel positive. I'm afraid to feel comfortable. I'm afraid to let go because I'm going to get hurt. And what happens is once you push through that pain, whatever
Mhm.
your pain is, whatever cross it is
Yeah.
that you bear, and you come to the other side, and then you keep all the learnings, you
Mm.
basically come out like a Viking.
Oh yeah,
You
totally.
basically, like, at this point, it's like you can throw anything at me and I'm ready,
Yeah,
right?
it's true.
But it's in that limbo period of time where I'm just not quite sure what is happening in my life.
Yeah. And
And
uncertainty.
it's the tremendous amount of uncertainty, and I'm so afraid to feel good. I'm so
Mm.
afraid to feel good because just around the corner, there's going to be something that the shoe's going to drop, right? The sky is falling. Something it can't be this
It can't
good,
be so good, right?
right?
Mm. Yeah. But it can. Like eventually, hopefully you'll realize that it can. And that in the midst of even the things that are quote unquote bad that happen, like my son, as you know, got into a motorcycle accident. Thank God he's okay. But even in the midst of as difficult as that was, and finding out that I'm pregnant again, because that had its challenges, it there was something beautiful in the chaos of navigating through those emotions
Mm-hmm.
and being supported and feeling fragile. And it was beautiful in its own way. And I've just learned to find beauty in everything, accept exactly where I am, accept myself, and love others unconditionally as much as possible, especially those in my family.
No, absolutely. Absolutely. All right. So I want to ask you some questions because now
Mm-hmm.
we've got a good idea
Yeah.
of who Shirley is, what she's been through, what she's battled through, the adversities in her marriage, and then ultimately this, when we talk about live life, it's
Yeah.
all a culmination of this beautiful life experience.
Yes.
That's what it is. It would not be available to women if
Right.
Shirley had not battled through the adversities and challenges and come the other side and made the decision that, you know what?
Yeah.
I'm not staying down ever.
Right. It's exactly right. Like I'm not saying that. And sometimes it was just take away the pain. It was okay. Like it was like take away the pain, take away the pain. And then it was enough to go, okay, I'm not staying down.
Yeah.
So whatever it is, just move up. Like for whatever reason, just keep moving, just keep swimming, you'll get it, you'll make it.
And so, as a coach, I hear stories all day from people who say, I can't do this because, or once I achieve this, I'll be happy. They learn and pick up patterns from role models in their life, not realizing that they are now in charge of their own story. So, what is the story that you used to tell yourself, your biggest limiting beliefs, and what is it that you believe now?
Wow, my biggest limiting belief was that I had to do things alone.
Mm.
That is a huge one, and it's probably the biggest one for women. That's huge for women because it fits all the patterns. There's a lot of men who are emotionally absent. They're disconnected. The woman is disconnected from the marriage because then she focuses on the children. The younger girls who don't have marriages yet and don't have any children, I have to do it alone because I have to show the world that I'm strong as men. So no matter what her story of womanhood is, my particular one, I don't know what it is for men, but mine and the common thread in women is I have to do it alone. Even though we'll be like, we don't have to do it alone. Bullshit. I won't, pardon me for that.
You can say bullshit all you want on this one.
Okay, good. Thank you. All right, good. I was like, oh, okay. Because there's no other word for that. It's like, it's bullshit.
Yeah, yeah.
I want to see your actions. Are you doing it alone? Because if you think you're Wonder Woman, like waking up super early, taking care of the kids, blah, 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 all the time in your masculine energy, making it happen, you're doing it alone. We don't know how to do it in community. We don't know how to do it supportive. In one area we might, but we drop the ball in another one. So at first for me, it was the story of I have to do marriage alone. Then it was I have to do parenting alone. I had to give birth alone, even though he was there, but he was emotionally absent. I have to heal alone. And then it became, I have to do business alone. Because once I found my purpose, he wasn't on track. He wasn't on board. So it's like, oh, now I have to build this business alone. So the whole time it was like, I'm doing this alone. And it wasn't until I healed that story and said, It's not him. It's me. I need to be willing to change that story. I'm not alone. I am supported, and that was life-changing for me. That was life-changing.
So usually on a breakthrough moment like that, right, there is in many cases an opportunity to take massive action. So once that aha moment presented itself and you were like, wait a minute, I don't have to do any of this alone.
Yep.
Right? So what was immediately the action steps you started to take?
Oh my gosh, that was the most incredible experience of my life. So do you know when that breakthrough happened? The night before the beginning of my first event.
Wow.
So
That's big.
I had created that event on my own pretty much. I mean, yeah, there were people that helped me and supported me or whatever, but I had gotten on that, pretty much alone. Like I put an event with 80 women together for 3 days, like, some help here and there, but it was like me alone. And the day before the beginning, like at that night before, I'm doing all this work and I get triggered because he's sitting down relaxing. And I'm like, here I am again. I'm doing it alone. There's all this stuff to do. He's not putting this in the car. I'm doing it alone. And I come into my office and I start having a nervous breakdown. Long story short, I call a therapist on a phone call. And I said, I feel like I'm giving birth alone. And she says, this is your childhood story. She says, your mother has C-section? I said, yes. She says, this is how your mother felt when she gave birth to you. She felt alone. And it's true. Therefore, I inherited that. That wasn't my story. It was my mom's story. And then now it became my story. So powerful, Omar. And she says, you are reliving this is your childbirth story. You were programmed to do life alone. This is Shirley, you got a chance to give birth to something different now. She says, and as soon as that happened, I'm having her on the phone. I'm freaking out. I'm having a panic attack, nervous breakdown. My husband walks in and he sees me freaking out and he's like, what's wrong? And he literally holds me and I'm almost like giving birth position, freaking out on the sofa kind of thing. I got the midwife, quote unquote, spiritual midwife, I call her, on one line, coaching me through this. And he's holding my hand like I'm giving birth. And I process through this and I cry and I make a conscious decision that I'm not alone. And I visualize my birth and I realize what happened in where I had an epiphany moment where I relived my birth. And I remember coming out of the birth canal, Omar, it's the freakiest thing. And I saw the doctors and I said, oh my God, there were other people that helped me give birth, that helped me come to this world. Doctors and nurses, and my mom was there. It was a group thing. They wanted me here. They were happy that I was born. And I relived it. And the next day I went and did the event. Day one, day two, day three. And day three, I tell these women that. And I said, girls, the whole process to getting here was determining I'm not doing it alone. I said, I'm here. I've been welcomed. Like, this is my coming out. This is my birthing process. When the event was over, I said, girls, this was my gift to you. I started crying. They start playing the song, This Girl Is on Fire. And they all shout, welcome to the world.
Oh, dude. I got goosebumps.
Omar.
Damn.
80 women.
Damn.
And they lift me up in the air. I got to send you that picture. They lifted me up in the air, like I'm being lifted by all these women up in the air. And I'm spread out like this, like arms open, straight back, just letting myself go, being supported by these 80 women that I had just walked through the process for 3 days. That was my quote unquote immediate action. It was my gift.
Wow. Everything about your story gives us more clues about those 7 kids.
You're funny. You're still like, how did that happen?
But listen to this. It's like, this is your childhood birth story. This is your opportunity to change that story. And I'm constantly looking for opportunities to change that story.
Yeah,
Every
exactly.
birth is a new opportunity to change that story.
Yep.
The only thing was
Exactly.
that God was like, no, you just need to change it in your mind.
And I'm like, no, let's just have one more baby. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. But there it was. Like, what an amazing story of like, I can totally picture you on the couch, on the phone, bawling, and your husband calling and going, what the fuck? Like,
Yes.
oh my
Yeah.
God, like, what can I do?
Yeah.
And I will tell you something, Shirley. I will tell you something, and it's true. We are not the sharpest tools in the shed.
Right.
Okay. When it comes, we food, sex, sleep, right? Netflix, right?
Uh-huh.
That is it. Like if I like so give me an idea of what your perfect life looks like. Okay, right?
Exactly. Simple.
Food, sex, sleep, Netflix. Okay, great. Obviously, that's not realistic, but you asked me for my perfect story. We're simple
Exactly.
creatures, right? And we're
Yes.
not, and until we self-actualize,
Yeah.
until we go next level, we do not run around the house going, she's acting different. Use
Mm-hmm.
your intuitive powers to figure that shit out
Yeah.
now, right?
Right.
But I have had those moments
Mm.
where my wife has like, you're not getting it.
Right. Oh gosh.
This is how I feel. This is what's going on. You need to do something now. And
Wow.
I can tell you, and I don't know if you've had those moments with your husband, but I know
Uh-huh.
this. I snapped fuck out of it fast.
Wow.
Like it was like,
Oh,
I'm
great.
listening. I'm
Oh,
like, this ain't
you're,
happening
you're a
again.
good man. You're a good man. You're a good man. You're a good man. But you're an evolved man.
Very
So
evolved.
what happens to the rest of the men who have no freaking clue? That's
But
why I have the event.
I
That's
hear
why I
you.
have the event, because women have to figure this out.
But
We got to
speak
figure out our emotion.
but speak to that, because have you had that, like, for example, your husband's like chilling on the couch while you're running around making things happen, right? Before you have the meltdown. And
Yeah.
he's in his own world thinking about his own stuff, and you're in your world thinking about your own stuff. Okay. And then at some point it's like, look at him just kind of chilling there. How about like, hey, honey, you ever gonna help me out here?
Huh? I used to do that. Now I just go, sweetie, could you please? I need you.
Well,
I really go into feminine, which is so beautiful.
no,
First, and before I even get angry, because now I just say, Shirley, you're playing the victim. You're going to use him as the excuse for your addiction to work. That's why I told you. We complain that the man doesn't help us, but we love to do it alone because it gives us significance. That's what I'm telling you.
okay, so boom. So this is where we got to keep unwrapping, because our
I
listeners
know.
our
I know.
listeners are listening to this, and you have to understand that helplessness is power. We get
Right.
significance from being
Uh-huh.
helpless, from being victims, from being martyrs,
Yep.
right? We get
Yeah.
significance from all that. And
Uh-huh.
you don't say anything. And then he's like, why are you so mad? Well, I shouldn't have to say anything. And just even saying that is power. But you don't even recognize what it's coming from. I feel insignificant because he's not getting up and saying, honey, my love, I see that you're doing all this work. What can I do to help you? What is it that you need from me? Let me be there for you 100%. And I'm waiting for it, and it ain't happening. So I go the other direction.
The bitch.
So when was it? Because I'm confident that this has happened. At some
Yeah.
point, it was like,
Yeah,
I'm
it
done.
was all the time. It was all the time. Yeah, it was
Okay.
like, he's at fault. He's a freaking passive man. He's blah, blah, blah. He's not helping me. Da, 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 da.
So how did you guys resolve that?
I resolved it. I took, because I changed the story. So you asked me, what was my story? The story is I had to do it alone. When I changed my story is now I became resourceful to say, how can I not do it at all? It was like, okay, I don't want to do it. I
Oh,
don't have
wow.
to do it.
That's even bigger. That's
Yeah.
even
I'm like,
better.
if I'm the queen, queens are not like cleaning and doing everything. I mean, I'm not saying you don't. I mean, I like to organize, but I'm like, how can I make this happen? I have a lot of power. You can get a lot more bees with honey, but let me tell you, you won't use the honey if you're a hurt woman because you don't know your power. Let me show you how powerful you are. That man will be the happiest man. You'll figure yourself out. You'll know exactly what you need. You'll be able to transform yourself, your world, your family, everything around you, because you will have him and everybody else eating from the palm of your hand, because that's how powerful we are. And I don't mean that in a derogatory way. I'm just saying we are powerful. So now it's, babe, I mean, I literally go into that feminine, distressed position where I'm like, I would love for you. And I caress him and I love him and I tell him how amazing he is. I speak into his identity and I tell him how I need him so much. A man who gets that will do anything for his woman. And I really genuinely believe that. See, before I could never say it because my men's story was they're jerks. They do this, and I have to do it alone. I had to change all those stories. It took me years to get to the point where first, I don't have to do it alone. Second, he's happy to rescue me if I know how to ask. And third, I need to know what I want because otherwise he won't figure it out. Because he's a man. He's wired differently. I'm thinking about 100 things. He's thinking about one, sex. Netflix, you're adding to that. It's really just one, and it's called sex. And it's not because of an addiction. That is just men, period. Right? So if I'm smart about it, I'm going to catch more bees with honey. I'm going to ask for my request, and I have to be clear about what I need first. That's the thing. We women, we're like, I know I need something. Go to the man so he can fix it. What do you need? I don't know, but fix it. Girl, he cannot figure you out because you don't figure yourself out to begin with.
So much of it is the story.
It is.
That's where it all begins. I have to do this alone so that I can play the martyr, right? So I have an excuse to be a victim, right? And I'm not going to appease him and make him feel special. He doesn't deserve it. These are all just bullshit stories.
Yep. Yeah. It's conditional love. He
Yes.
doesn't do this for me. I won't do this for him. I don't want to be vulnerable. I want to put my walls up. Freaking defense mechanisms, because we're not emotionally healthy. The moment you become emotionally healthy, you stop focusing on the other person and you start realizing how powerful you are. You say, I've created this messy, crappy family. How can I fix it? How can I change it? I created this. This is a manifestation of me. Last 3 to 5 years that I've been living, created today. How am I going to live today to create the next 3 to 5 years?
Yes.
You do that, it'll change your life. It will change your life. And I that's why I'm so passionate and so confident about what I do, Omar, because I know I have the blueprint. I know that I've lived it. It's not theory for me. It's like I have changed every single area of my life. And the hardest area of your life is relationship.
Yes.
And I've done that. I've done that, and I'm thrilled and happy.
And I can tell you all that are listening that once you change that blueprint, because my wife does the same thing too. Like she knows once we've had those moments, right, where I've snapped out of it, right? Now she uses that feminine energy to talk about. Go, oh, that sounds familiar, right? Yes. So, and it's like, babe, can you, the car's out of gas. Can you fill the gas up for me, right? And stuff, whatever, right? Babe, I left the computer in the car. Can you go get it, please? That kind of stuff, right? And I'm like halfway through the sentence. I'm already like, I'm on my way, right? And but once I get the story out of my head, oh my God, what is it now? And she's just constantly asking me to do shit. And like, what am I, some kind of slave? And this and this and that. As soon as you are both able to remove the story, the old story, put in new stories, right? And then connect with your own strength, power, healing, then the true message, the communication that's actually trying to happen, actually penetrates. And then it becomes this kind of like sort of like effortless effort that,
Beautiful. It just flows.
Yeah, it just flows. It just flows.
It flows. There's
Okay, if you're in
One of the
Florida,
biggest,
you ladies need to
let me
go
tell you,
to.
one of the biggest stories in our relationship was, I'm not your enemy, Gus. It was like, I'm going to think the best of you. Think the best of me. So we give each other the benefit of the doubt when you're like, oh, he's such a jerk. He's not doing. Okay, no. That's my story. Okay. If I think the best of him, he might be tired. He might not know. He might not have seen me in need. I haven't asked. Like, best case scenario, think the best of your partner. Because if you don't think the best of him, that speaks volumes of you, because you're an
Beautiful.
idiot for marrying him or her. So that's it. Okay.
That's strong. That's strong. Ladies, if you're in Florida, I'd suggest, it's going to be on the show notes, information for the event. You might want to consider going.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. All right. So this is one of this is why I love asking these questions, because immediately it sparks the most important thing that we can do for ourselves is rewrite those stories. Yeah. But there's also that moment. I love this one because this is my Tony Robbins question, right?
Okay.
The burn the boats. There's that moment in our lives where we said, not one more day, not one more second, not one more hour, not one more minute. I will not tolerate this in my life any longer. I'm going to take the island. I got to burn the boats. What was that pivotal moment in your life when you turned it all around, when you drew the line in the sand?
It's interesting. I've had so many of those, but I think the very first one was when I read the book Boundaries. And it was like, this is not happening to me ever again. Whatever it was like, I'm not ever going to be disrespected. I'm not ever going to, so that was definitely a burning the boats moment. For me, it's been more like burning a bunch of canoes, it's been more like that. Every single thing was like, never again, never again, never again. And taking full responsibility for the lessons in that experience, as negative as they could have been, and saying, how can I create a new outcome? Because I created this mess, even though I might feel like the victim, but no, I created it. So how can I rewrite it so that it never again, whether it was a business experience, a client I didn't like, in my marriage or in my parenting, anywhere, it was, that was yucky. It was ugly. I didn't like it. How can I create something new? What was in me that created this? How can I recreate that? How can I rewire that so that I can create something different? A bunch of canoes burned.
Any one particular canoe come to mind?
Well, the one about reading the book Boundaries was definitely one.
But there was something about it, right? Like I read it and it created some sort of a thought.
Yeah, it was the thought of
where was I not creating boundaries?
Yeah, right. It was in all areas of my life, like where he would run over my time. He would, it was everything. I didn't know about boundaries.
Okay. Every area.
Sexual abuse totally runs over your boundaries. So any person that has gone through sexual abuse has no boundaries. They have no boundaries towards others. They may not necessarily have boundaries. Anybody can cross over their boundaries. So, and being Hispanic, it's like, no, mi casa es tu casa. That's another thing where there was no boundaries. It's like, you, we're all one. So the idea of boundaries was like, what? Oh, you should see me today. Anybody crosses one dash of my boundaries, I'm like, excuse me, there are boundaries? Like, no, you can't, because it is a beautiful thing to have boundaries. Boundaries, not protective walls, just boundaries. Boundaries that keep safe. I honor you, you honor me. I can do me, I can do me, you can do you. So the boundaries of just saying, never again will I walk around with life where I am not creating safety boundaries so that I can have healthy interactions with others and others can have healthy interactions with me.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Mm-hmm. It's so kind of like basic once you get into personal development about effective communication, boundaries, recognizing the stories, rewriting those stories, right? Identifying the emotions created by those stories, right? And it's just, after a while, it's all programming. And once you understand it, right, then it becomes a lot easier as you go along. Ooh, this is happening again. And we adjust quickly. So Tell us about an aha moment in your life where you realized you were now moving in the right direction.
Oh, talking about boundaries, I'll piggyback off that. So one day, right around that time, I'm sitting down. This was 8 years ago, probably. I sit on the bed to talk to Gus. I look him over. I start talking to him like something important. He's in his computer in the laptop in the bed, right? So he's on his side. I'm on my side, and he's in his laptop. And I say, "Excuse me, can I talk to you?" And he goes, "Yes." He keeps looking at his computer. Doesn't, stare at me, doesn't look at me, doesn't pause, doesn't make me feel present, important. He never does this now, mind you. I mean, this was a long time ago. And I say, I'm talking, and then there's a moment that just goes, aha, like this is where you didn't set a boundary. You're not being honored. You're not being valued. You're not being respected. He's not earning your time. He's not even looking at you. That's a worthless piece of shit you are. That's what you created. Yeah. You're not even worth looking at, Shirley. Can you imagine? And I said, So I stopped what I was saying to him and I said, excuse me, I realized that you're busy and I value myself now and I deserve to be looked at. So whenever you're ready to look at me when I have a conversation, I'll come back. And I just walked away like nothing, like no anchors, no triggers. No, it was just, I'm not doing that again. So aha moment, I walked away and there was like a grin on my face where I was like, I'm so proud of you.
Yes.
You realize you deserve to be looked at when someone talks to you, especially the man that you've been a mother to 6 children.
And valued.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yes. When I have value, when I have worth,
yeah,
then I want to be seen.
Absolutely. I want to be seen. I deserve to be seen. Today, that man, he's like all eyes on me. It's amazing. He's like, sweetie, what do you need? Full body. He turns his full body to face me. I know how to grab his attention. I know other stuff I can grab, but don't go into that. But it's like, we're just all about like, you are so valuable and I'm so valuable to him. So it's totally changed. But yeah, that was an aha moment.
There's freedom in there. There's a lot of freedom in the marriage now.
A lot of empowerment.
Yes. Yes. All right. Do you have a favorite book that you would recommend to our listeners?
Wow. Yeah. I'm going to tell you two, if you don't mind. So not a fictional book. I actually like fiction, and Uncle Tom's Cabin. Okay. I know that's random out of nowhere, but
Very
Uncle
random.
Tom's Cabin is a phenomenal classic book. And a fictional book, I like The Law of Success by Napoleon Hill. It's a 600-page book. To me, it's the Bible of success. It is something that we have to read and master. I'm a bookworm. I own over 5,000 books. Okay. So my library is walls full. I have to take pictures and send them to you. I literally have 2 walls from floor to ceiling of every subject, history, chronological order. Remember, I have homeschooled for 18 years. So I have every classic and biography you can imagine. Literature. I mean, I have it all, science, et cetera. So, and personal development, health, every area I have. So definitely, The Law of Success, Outwitting the Devil by Napoleon Hill is also phenomenal. And A Return to Love by Marianne Williamson is amazing.
Mm-hmm.
That's a wonderful book too. And I would say those are really...
Those are fabulous. I've read Outwitting the Devil, Napoleon Hill. Fantastic. Yeah. I've read both of his books. The only one missing here is The Law of Success. So
that's awesome.
I'm adding
and
that
for
one.
women, women who run with the wolves. Women Who Run with the Wolves. It's another like 500-page book. It's not the book you read in one sitting. It's the book you read over a period of 1 to 2 years, because it's fables. Like, it's a woman that studies folkloric stories from countries and nations and cultures. And then she gives you the perspective of the feminine heroine. What's the word?
Heroine. Yeah.
Yeah. In each story. So how does it assimilate to our emotional intelligence from the folkloric story, like Cinderella? Like, what does that have to do with women? So it's fascinating. Women Who Run with the Wolves.
Love it. Love it. Okay. What are your 3 most powerful I am statements?
I am powerfully feminine. I am love. I am endless. Like there is no end to me.
She is a powerful woman. She is something else. She's a firecracker, this one.
I am a firecracker.
I am a force for good.
Yes, I am a catalyst.
Now I am the voice. Sorry.
I am the voice. Yeah. Tony Robbins freaks.
I
Yeah.
know. I'm just.
We are.
I can't help myself. All right. What is your personal success formula or blueprint for success?
Okay. I have several because I have like blueprints for every area of my life. And as a woman, a blueprint for human beings, it's live both worlds, like live the extreme of everything. So it's like, I trust everyone and I trust no one. You have to trust everyone, but trust no one at the same time. I have to take full on risks and yet take no risks. You have to have the wisdom. It's like wisdom is what's going to show you. It's not one or the other. It's wisdom. You need wisdom in your life to know how to operate. But I love the extremes. I love the extremes of life. You know, it's like invest in yourself, you know, like spend money and yet save every dime you have. Like, so the extremes are beautiful. It's not one or the other. It's the wisdom to know when to apply them.
It's the serenity prayer.
There you go. Yeah.
Love it. Love it.
You know the difference. Mm-hmm.
What is the best advice you have ever received?
Practically speaking, probably the journaling and learning to hear the voice of God. Knowing that I'm loved, that I am loved by a personal God. And that journaling time, that makes me feel, it helped me to feel unique. It gave me identity. As advice, you know, call it advice, call it mentorship. Yeah, for sure. Identity is everything. It's like your I am.
So if our listeners want to reach out to you, get in touch with you, find out more about you, what's the best way for them to find you, you know, connect with you?
Absolutely. You know, I love Instagram. So my handle there is the Shirley Solis. Facebook, same thing, the Shirley Solis. You just have to Google Shirley Solis. You'll find me in pretty much every platform. My website, shirleysolis.com. One of the things that, going back to that, you know, what's the best advice you've been given? There was a man who was the editor for the Miami Herald, it's the largest magazine here in Miami, very well known. And he was the publisher, I mean, like the guy in charge of the whole thing, 70-some-year-old man, very well known in Florida, huge, you know, foundations and nonprofits and not what. And he said to me, Shirley, I've never turned down a request for an interview. He says, I've given everyone as popular. I mean, this man is well known. He says, I've never turned down anyone. And that, I took notes of that. And I said, I love that. I want to be as accessible as I can to people. I don't want it to be where I'm so wealthy and so whatever that people can't reach me. I want to be available. So I am available. Like you want to know me, you will find me wherever you go. And I will answer your questions. I will connect with you, because part of what this world needs is for every person to know, I don't care if you spend any dime with me. I want you to know how valuable you are. I want you to know how special you are. I want you to know that if I'm the only person in the world that will tell you, you matter. You matter and you are worth it. That's it. And so I'm committed to that. But yeah, social media for sure, email, like if you want to find me, you'll find me. And once you find me, I hope you never, you know, we continue to be friends. We continue to be friends. Yeah.
I love it. Well, we are going to continue to be friends.
I hope so. I hope so. You know too much now.
So do a few thousand other people now.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. Do you have any parting piece? What is one parting piece of wisdom you would like to share with our listeners?
Wow. Just listen. Mahatma Gandhi said, be the change you want to be in the world. Be the change you want to see in the world. It's so true. It is so true. And for the men listening, I want to say to you guys, I want to say women have been very hurt by women and by men. And there's a huge movement going around now of women's empowerment. But within that empowerment, there's a lot of anger because there's a lot of pain. Please take responsibility and just heal your life so that you can help the women in your lives heal. For the women, I will say, women, rah, rah for women's empowerment. But we can't heal ourselves and leave the man behind. Let's become the kind of women that is not all about us and boss moms and boss women and badass women. It's like, freak, become feminine. Don't be scared of your femininity. There's a t-shirt Gus gave me, and he thought in a good way that he was giving it to me because of, whole women. And it said, strong women intimidate weak men. And, he bought it at a gun show. He was like, look, Shirley, I bought you this, But he didn't even realize he had fallen into that trap. And I said, that shirt made me sad. It's not strong women intimidate weak men. If we believe there's any weak men out there, our belief system is wrong. There are no weak men. There are just hurt men and hurt women. There's nobody that's weak. Everybody is empowered with the potential to change. So strong women support men, period. We lift up men. We nurture them. We love them. We understand them. We stop trying to make them come into our world and think like women. We cross over and we understand them. If what I'm telling you is foreign, you need to be at my event. Like, you need to follow me. Because, yeah, I'm serious. Like, this is about restoring the genders. We need to stop hurting each other. You're going to be raising boys. You're going to be raising girls. We need to create restoration in our world. And we can't do it at the expense of the men in our world. They need us. They need what we have. They need the joy that we bring to the world. That's it. Come to my event. Like, boom, mic drop.
Mic drop. I was just thinking that she stole it. I'm like,
sorry.
Yeah, I was on the edge of my seat. I'm like, she's got me. I am right there. Drop the mic, walks off the stage. Bam. Boom. And we are going to close with that. Powerful, powerful woman with an incredible story. Thank you, Shirley, so much for joining us.
Thank you, Omar. Thank you to the audience, you guys. Your audience is my audience. My audience is your audience. We are so like-minded. I honor you. I respect you incredibly in the short time that we've known each other. I am so blessed to have you in my life. You guys are led by an incredible leader. This man is humble. He has a heart. He is so full of integrity. You really need to follow what he's saying. If he says stand on your head, he's willing to do, and he's doing what he's asking you to do. He speaks and he walks the talk, and he's gotten to a place in his life where he's fully healed, fully transformed. And wherever you are, you want transformation, follow this man, because he will help you have your breakthrough. Thank you, Omar. I appreciate you so much. Thank you.
All of that is so true.
It is. It's funny. So humble too. Did I say humble?
She did.
Jesus.
Hey, Shirley, I can only say it takes one to know one.
Oh, thank you. Love you, man.
You have the exact same power and fervor and desire to create such a massive movement of empowerment for not just women, but for men as well. But more importantly, you create that avenue or that gap that needs filling in women's personal development. And I am right behind you 100%.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you so much. Tony Robbins, here we come.
Yes.
That's right.
All right. Right. So we've now reached the end of our show. Thanks for joining us. And as we say here in Costa Rica, pura vida.
Pura vida. Pura vida.
Man, she's on fire. And with that, we close.